The Ahamkara, beings wrapped in both mystery and legacy, their true nature tightly bound by the embrace of extinction and encroachment. But do they remain? Are the Ahamkara still roaming the rain-soaked plains of Venus? Or was the Great Hunt total, absolute in its measure to remove life from its natural habitat? We began our search much like any other, in the libraries of the tower, accessing reports and files brimming with information regarding these beasts. But what we found was something much more elusive. This is the story of a small and relatively unknown fire team tasked with discovering any information that could illuminate the reclusive Ahamkara. This report remains different from all previous entries. Generally, all information received comes from various teams of Guardians, or the Vanguard working towards a common set of goals and bounties. While all Guardians are experienced in battle, few reports require physical incursions into active hostile territory. This was different. We were tasked by our fellow Guardians to uncover anything relating to the Ahamkara and any local fauna on Venus, but to do so required both an adept guide and a fellow scholar. But the calling, it was odd, a faint voice in the back of your mind. It wasn't your consciousness reaching out, begging for attention. It wasn't your sanity coming into question. It was something different. Foreign, calculating. It obviously didn't belong in the synapses of your brain, but it was there. A dull hum in the back of your ears, nudging you on ever so slightly to your end. The calling. That was its name, its singular voice in an eternity of echoes. There was an older report here, undated but certainly aged. It offers us glimpses at the knowledge and the threat the Ahamkara posed to the city of the past. After great deliberation, it was determined that the Ahamkara be made extinct. It was not an easy decision. Power had been obtained from the bargains, and the city needed power. Knowledge had been gleaned, and the Ahamkara knew answers to questions no one had known to ask. But the price was too high, and no edict or forbearance seemed to stop Guardians from seeking them out, driven by hope, or vengeance, or despair. The call had to be silenced, so the Great Hunt did its work, and thus the Ahamkara were made extinct, their call silenced, their solipsistic flatteries erased, their great design, if it ever existed, broken. Of this you can be assured, O reader mine. This one piece of reporting stood out. It had a certain unseeable essence surrounding it. A ghost couldn't see it, or maybe it could, and decided to calculate it off as human emotion influencing the wrong context. I felt it. My team felt it, and you may yet feel it as well. The source had come from a fellow warlock. We were members in the same order, but had not often seen fieldwork with one another. He was a young man, gifted with an articulate intelligence, but scarred enough by matters of hostility to present some harmless imperfections. He had been seeking information about the past treaties and pages formed by the Consensus and the Vanguard when he found this report. He said it spoke to him oddly, highly uncharacteristic of a piece of thoughtless matter. Intrigued, it became our waypoint for the search, our only light along the path of discovery. Recent reports from Guardians proclaimed flying fauna on Venus, beasts stated to be as large as mountains. Although some more concise information states them as overgrown bats, it was the unanimous option to start. What the fire team lacked, however, was an individual born from solo escapades into territories uncharted and untamed. The fire team begged for an expedition leader, an individual with enough experience to lead the uninitiated through the acid swamps and hostile jungles of Venus. What it found was a quiet exo-hunter, bred through years of experience engaging the Vex and the fallen House of Winter. She did not exude pride, but a certain silent ability to have a knife at your neck faster than any warlock could raise their palm in defiance. But when the Ahamkara were mentioned, that intangible humility she poured was removed, almost instantly, as if ego had been challenged once again and had to be sated. It was most fearsome. The anger she had locked away had become unchanged. Do not ever anger a quiet XO, Guardians. The metallic grimaces they make are most troubling. It took some convincing, bartering glimmer and strange coins, but after long conversation on how the jungles will claim our organic, lifeless bodies, she agreed to lead us to the positions of sightings of these flying machinations. Before we departed the tower, we examined the consensus report and decision on the Ahamkara one final time. These were beings of immense power, offering their abilities and foresight into matters the city warranted necessary. But at what cost? What did the consensus offer to these mystical creations that had us turn our weaponry against them, flush them out into the harsh light of soul? Unfortunately, any information regarding the bargains that were struck have been removed completely from the consensus records, as if some force acting in a clandestine manner removed all documents pertaining to the Ahamkara, except for one document. It came to us like a beacon glimmering amongst the waves of inaccuracies and bias, but somehow the document was personified, as if wanting to be found. This is most intriguing, and certainly the sightings of winged beasts on Venus allows for possibility, but it may not be enough to offer deniability to their extinction. There is a faint voice, song coming from the black sea of space, asking us to be its audience and return it to its rightful place of power. Before we reached Venus, she spoke again. The XO had been calmed by intersolar travel, peacefulness reaching out to her once again. She told us a story she heard when she was younger, about a warlock challenging a hunter to a game of ego and pride, reminiscent of how we had challenged her. She spoke from her position of the warlock to give context. Her words had a slight abrasiveness to our kind, but she spoke true. Why did I set her on the trail? You try and try and try to explain, but no one ever understands. No one who's not a warlock, who hasn't spent dozens of years scouring ruins for one string of symbols, one clean code, one black talent. Titans just make a humping noise if they stayed awake. Hunters clean their nails with their knives and look at you like they've grown a third eye. But when you've spent your life searching through arcana for ancient power, you have the urge to reach out and educate others, especially if you've had one too many. Nah, she's not my type at all. We've played dice, cards, war games, the usual stuff, and I've never tried to show off before. I don't know what came over me. I had a broken vertebrae in my pocket that I'd borrowed. Yes, borrowed. I was gonna put it back. What do you think you are, my conscience? It was a fossil. That means mineral replacement. A rock, basically. They can survive a few hours in my pocket. Do shut up. The Cryptarchs weren't going to miss it. Everyone knows the Ahamkaras were hunted to extinction, and there's nothing to be afraid of anymore. Think of how mysterious this system is, I said. How much life sprang up after the Traveler came, like the Ahamkara. Do you know the legends? The dragon that made promises, and I pulled out the fossil with a flourish. She pulled out her knife and started to pick the dirt from her nails. That set me off. You could never have brought down one of these, I said, ever. Not the greatest hunter or the brawniest titan. Her eyes narrowed. She said, "Oh, is that so?" And I saw right then there that she wasn't going to pass on the challenge. I've murdered a guardian, I thought. She's going to die. It'll be my fault. And I looked at the piece of spine in my hand and wondered, why did I say that? What moved me to such pride? She told that story with some vehemence for warlocks, for my kind, and at that moment I had grown to hate her, despised her for what she was, quiet and calculating. She was a relic of the past, a tin can made to move and talk like some puppet with no soul or purpose. At least, that was what I thought. My ego would not be damaged by some frontier XO frolicking about telling half-truths and mysteries as if she had written them herself. When she spoke, though, there was a ringing in my ears, a deafening tone of blandness that cut deeply into my mind, asking me to make her stop, silence her and all those like her forever. It called to me, requested my presence on Venus, past the Vex hordes, deep within the ancient gate ruins. Buried there, the rock would birth a gift of power so immense it echoed beyond star systems. On Venus, past the Vex and the ruins of the Ishtar Collective, we found pieces of intrigue inside a rock formation, and outcroppings that craved ruin, but we pressed forward in defiance. What we found was incredible. Power at our very fingertips, ancient pieces of spine and claw, daring us to wield them. It had challenged our ego, our pride, our very essence, and we rose to it. claim them as our own, and return to the tower to celebrate our ability to find extinction and allow reincarnation. It bargained for life. I bargained for power. The calling is now loud, a voice booming, resonating through my thoughts, implicating quests of magnifying desire, stating the rough implications of impossibility be achievable so as long as I wield the claws of this dead thing. The Ahamkara were never truly extinct. They called to the worthy, challenging pride and ego. Do not disappoint them, Guardians.